Hey, what's up, everybody? It is Friday night. It is August 23rd, and it is time for the Ghost Files. What's up, everybody? Thank you for joining me here on the wompstompllc YouTube channel. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to this channel. Make sure you're liking this video. Make sure you're making comments. Let's get this thing into the algorithm and have some fun. I apologize in advance for any ads that pop up, but for that, that's gets you super chats. So anybody who wants to ask a question during tonight's stream, make sure you hit that super chat button, and that will get you to the top so you can ask some questions tonight. It's going to be a fun one this week. If you guys saw the ad, we're going to have two filmmakers on tonight who are making a giallo film, and you guys know I love my giallo. Jack and Eric will be joining me in a second. So if you haven't already, just by looking at the thumbnail, check out the description of this video, and there is a link to the Kickstarter that they are running right now. They have hit their goal, which is really great. So they're pushing for stretch goals right now. I believe the stretch goal they're pushing for is $50,000. That will be adding some stunts and stuff to the film, and we're going to ask them about that in a little bit. Again, we have Undead moderating the chat, so if you have any questions, hit up Undead. I'm sure he'll throw the links in there for everybody. So without any further ado, I'm going to bring on my good friends, Zack Cherry, Erik Champney. Hey guys, how you doing?
Great. How are you?
Wonderful. Hi.
Great. Welcome to the Ghost Files. I love you guys got the matching Macabre shirts.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it comes exclusive to our Kickstarter campaign.
There you go. See, so if you get you guys got to jump on there tonight and get yourself some shirts. I definitely got to get myself one. They look rad. Where do you guys get them done?
We don't know yet. Right we had to get prototypes, which is a whole nightmare in and of itself, trying to figure that out. Because
first whole story behind these shirts. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, well,
we actually didn't have this at first. It was like a different design. So
no, I mean, the design looks great. We'll get into that in a little bit. Why don't you guys just start off? Zack, we'll start with you. Why don't you just introduce yourself, a little bit of your background, and then let's get into the gestation of where Macabre started and where you want to take it.
Yeah, for sure. I am a YouTube creator stationed in Alberta, Canada. I've been doing this for probably like 4 or 5 years now. Kind of lost track. But kind of my biggest thing, or what my audience knows me for, is a lot of coverage on the Scream franchise. So there's a lot of content there. Primarily, I'm most known for my Who Killed Who videos in the Scream franchise. I think that's what most people would say if you ask them who Zack Cherry is. Now I'm kind of transitioning into making my own film with Erik here.
Great. Erik, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I started off as a playwright and really kind of was on that path for a very long time, and only that path. And then during the pandemic, I was commissioned to write a screenplay. I met someone by chance. They commissioned a screenplay from me. I'd never written one before, so I decided, what the hell? And then during pre-production, I had such a specific idea of everything I wanted from the script that I was asked to direct the film. I thought they were insane. I actually had to, I didn't say yes right away. I had to think about it, but it ended up being a really wonderful experience, one of the most beautiful creative experiences of my life. And I'm still doing theater, but I really do love film. And I've made my second one that is just concluding its year-long festival rounds. We've been in Italy. We've been all over North America. It's won some awards. We're really proud of it. And it's this one right here. It's the screens.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that should be actually available to stream in the not too distant future.
Great. That sounds like a good idea. Now, how did you guys come together for Macabre?
Zack?
Erik and I first met through my Patreon. Erik, I came on a few of my podcasts that I still do, but it's an updated format. But back then it was just sort of a low-key Patreon thing. And I forget what movie it was that we were watching. But anyway, was it Happy Birthday to Me? Yeah.
Happy Birthday to Me.
Yeah, kind of giallo. But anyway, after the fact, we started to talk about, what we would like to see in a slasher movie ourselves, and it just sort of turned into this back and forth conversation of this concept that we had come up with that, you know, we'd never seen in any movies before, and we kind of wanted to see. So we were talking about making this ourselves. But at that point, it was just kind of like, you know, chitter chatter, and there wasn't really any concrete goal with that. And, you know, we always brought it up over the years. Like, this was probably almost 3 years ago. And then finally, this was back in like September, October of last year, Erik was just like, okay, well, like, we're going to write this now. Like, there's no more pussyfooting around this. We're going to do it. So he kind of lit a fire under me, and we got together and we started to, you know, write the script.
Nice. How long did it take to kind of put the idea together as far as, you know, from conception? Did you guys have what you want? Like, did you guys know that you wanted it to be giallo and you had a story, or were you really just sort of diving into your love for it and starting to pluck out pieces? When did it like stand out to you that this was the story you wanted to tell?
Well, we knew that it was going to be some kind of murder mystery, giallo-esque thing, because that's our thing, that's our jam. And like, I mean, we could watch Tenebrae 10 times a day and be perfectly happy with that. So when I went to Alberta, and Zack and I were finally together. It was a really wonderful opportunity for us to just be together and start creating this script. We had a lot of like false starts with it. We had an opening because we knew we wanted to have a big, huge opening. We couldn't decide what that was going to be. There were all of these like ideas that were like, he wanted this, I wanted that. I was obsessed with the idea of this bonfire killing. It ended up being, and we wrote it. Zack, you know, relented, and we wrote it, and it ended up being like one of the most embarrassing things that I've ever written. Like and to admit that, because I'm really used to like not writing complete trash. So it was kind of painful to admit that this is really bad, and this is kind of my fault that it's bad.
Well, it's nice that you get to a point where you can look at it and say that. I mean, that's what's really, that's the thing I love about the development process is sometimes you'll write something and you'll know right away, but you kind of like, as the more you go through it, the more you talk back and forth, things get better. You kind of pass. So when did you guys feel like you guys had it, and then you knew that you were going to crowdfunding with it? When was that moment that you guys knew that like you had it locked in and it was time to go?
Well, I think that, you know, while Erik was here, because it was, you know, after we wrote that, you know, terrible opening, we more so shifted to, like, away from this idea of writing it linearly, and decided like, okay, well, we have an idea of like a scene that's going to exist at this point in the movie, and we just started writing from the middle. And then that just kept writing itself, and we would you know, spend a lot of time watching, you know, the movies that really inspire us, and we would kind of try to tap into the essence of what we thought like made those movies so good and so memorable to us. Where, like, you know, I feel like a lot of movies you see nowadays, they'll try to do that, like just like surface level, you know, recreate something, and it just like completely misses the mark of what was so special. So we wanted to not really cover things in or homage things in a surface level, but more so, you know, delve into like what the movie is at its core. So once we kind of got on that track, we just kept writing it, and then we started moving backwards, like to the beginning, and we wrote the opening scene. And I think it was it back in March or April that we decided that, okay, we gotta make a short film version of this, because you know, we want it to be practical. Like, you know, we're going to write a script, but we want to like do something to, you know, increase our chances of getting it recognized and you know, getting greenlit for a feature. So we decided that the opening scene as a standalone film, a standalone short film, as a proof of concept, was the correct way to go.
And if you pluck the opening sequence from the feature-length screenplay, even though the opening sequence does launch the story of the full-length film, it stands on its own.
Yeah, no, and that's great. I mean, and that's one of the things that I always I always push people towards. If they're not going to make their feature, pick that scene in the film that really stands out and makes it so you can do that festival run with it and go pitch it and see if you can find investors to get somebody who's invested the idea. That's good. One thing we haven't talked about is the actual story of it. Do either one of you want to sort of like pitch us through the overall sort of setting we're getting ourselves into here?
Well, Zack came up with the beautiful log line. Zack, do you want to do it?
Oh, yeah, I have to look at the Kickstarter page to remember exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So this is just for the opening, the short. So oh,
It's his first log
Same
line. It is amazing.
This
It is
first line,
amazing.
okay, yeah. The story of Macabre follows two women working in an art gallery after hours, only to be visited by an uninvited guest with a twisted flair for the arts and a nefarious agenda.
Great. That sounds really cool. So it's taking place in art gallery. Sort of gives me Birdcage and the Crystal Plumage vibes. Is your poster too a little bit too? I got a little bit of that, like a little bit of that sort of energy there, which seemed pretty cool. What would you say? So you guys already mentioned Tenebrae. Are there any other giallo films that you feel like if someone has seen that film, this is definitely right up their alley, or something that you're really sort of directly influenced by to say, like, I love the way that, you know, obviously Argento's doing it or Fulci, but is there anything out there that's sort of like, what are the ones to you that stand out that feel like drove this story the most, do you think?
No, we're both
Okay,
like,
yeah, I mean, we have a list of you know the movies that inspired this. I think like with Tenebrae specifically, we decided there because what we really love about that movie is that it has a very unique aesthetic to it. Like the world of Tenebrae only exists in Tenebrae. Like you never see other movies like that. Like it's very bright. There's not really any shadows or darkness. It's not like a typical gothic horror. Like it's very modernistic looking, and almost like brutalist in like architecture and things like that. And when we started to write it, because the movie, you know, has a very specific setting, and we were more so thinking like our brains would go towards like more like gothic and, you know, that kind of like architecture and that would obviously be like something darker. And we're like, well, no, I think that we should commit to an idea here. So we, Tenebrae obviously came to mind, and we were like, okay, let's try to make it look like that. Let's keep this in mind for what the visual aesthetic of it would be. And then in terms of other giallo, I mean, going back to Argento, opera was one that became an influence. I think it was more so just it was the knife,
the weapon,
the dagger. Yeah. That we use there. There's a little bit of deep red. And I guess like there's a lot of Suspiria, you know, if you want to consider Suspiria giallo.
Supernatural giallo.
Yeah, but this isn't a supernatural movie. This is like very much like takes place in the real world.
Well, what's interesting is that I don't think that we decided on to streamline the aesthetic vision of the film until we decided it takes place in an art gallery, and from there it kind of launched us into the vision of, well, what is this world? And we didn't want this to be anything that took place down the street. We didn't want this to be something that could happen like in your neighborhood or in your town. We wanted, like Zack said, the world of Macabre to be the world of Macabre in and of itself.
Well, what I like about this setting is that it's also, I mean, an art gallery can be a lot of place, but also the art itself plays a role because it is your backdrop. It is all of those things. Do you have a gallery in mind where you're already going to shoot?
We're scouting now, and there is one in particular that I hope to God that we get, because it really does cover like the primary like gallery area. Like it nails like a lot of the things that we require, because Zack and I wrote ourselves into a corner with this gallery. There are specific things that the space must have, and so we have found several examples, but there's one in particular that we're waiting to hear back from. Our producer is working on that.
That's great. Yeah, the lighting too is going to be really great because you get the partitions, you get different rooms that sort of you can block off and do different things. Yeah, I'm sure that's going to be a lot of fun to play with. Do you have an aesthetic already picked out for sort of, are you going with what the art gallery has for the art that it has already, or do you think you're bringing in stuff that's sort of going to be from the film?
Well, we're definitely making props to put in there, because there's, you know, that does play into the film in a very contextual way. But we were talking with Randy Baruso, our producer today, about the potentiality of, you know, working with artists to get their art in there and somehow like have like a collaboration that would, you know, somehow fund the movie but also feature their artwork. So there's you know, like a lot of possibilities at this point that that we're, you know, very excited about.
It's also really a good chance for an artist to sell the art through the movie too. I mean, you put it in like literally art gallery out of the movie. You can buy the painting. In
so much of it depends on what the space allows us to do, and because like if we're going for a real gallery, which I would really like, because instead of finding a space that could, I mean, because we might end up having to find a space that is right. But isn't a gallery, and just making and turning it into a gallery. And if we end up having to do that, that's perfectly fine with me. That would take away the restrictions of any of the galleries' art being there. But right now we're looking at galleries.
No, that's great. And, you know, before I go any further, I forgot to do it before, but congratulations on hitting your first goal.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You know, how many days do you guys have left on the campaign?
I believe 12,
I think.
Yeah,
12 and just over 40K, going for 50K for stunts. I mean, it's great. You guys, I mean, I got to commend you. You guys ran a stellar campaign. I love the pre-launch that you did. That was super smart. You had people lined up. You did really well on day one. I mean, all the sort of tentpole things that you got to do, you guys did it. So I'm glad to see you guys, you know, hitting that success. You got a really good idea here. You want to tell us a little bit more about the team that you've built for this too? You know, maybe drop some names as far as the people that are involved and how and where they came from and sort of their backgrounds.
Well, like I'm really fortunate to have a team, like a crew, a creative team that I've already worked with, that like it's a tried and true relationships of people who like you know, top professionals who are damn good at what they do. Our cinematographer Isaiah Providence is just a visual genius. He can take the most mundane thing and turn it into an exquisitely fascinating situation. We have like our oh god, I did think our assistant director. I'm used to saying my assistant director Dylan Goodwin, but our assistant director Dylan Goodwin is actually a professionally a boom mic operator. He's working on the Jason Bateman and Jude Law show right now. But he's like on the side, he has been my assistant director twice before. So I mean, we have a really wonderful group of people who are experts at this. And then for our cast, we have like three incredible people, like who are all coming from very different backgrounds, but who also complement each other very well. And so I think that like overall the team that we're acquiring is going to be pretty supernatural as far as talent and production is concerned.
Oh, that's great. Do you have, I mean, you guys dropped Tenebrae. So the first, one thing I definitely have to bring up now is music, because that's definitely got, I mean, Tenebrae's jam. I have that on a bunch of playlists because that song rocks. But is there anything as far as like, have you guys thought about stylistically the way you want to approach music? Because that's obviously always a nice staple of giallo films, is it's taking something very stylized and it sort of becomes a character in itself. Do you have any plans for that?
Zach, do you want to?
Yeah, well, we definitely, this goes back to like, you know, like all the movies that we watched. And I mean, I'm speaking now to like the full script, because there were moments in that we were writing where we would bring up like the most random movies and like not even horror movies. And I would just tell Erik like, oh, there's this part of the score in this that's like really like haunting. But like it could work in a horror scenario, and I want you to listen to it. And Erik knows and has worked with a composer named Erik Smith, who is going to score Macabre. And as far as you know, I've been told Erik can accomplish anything. So you know, we've already kind of like told him about like the inspirations that we've wanted for this, and
Mhm.
he's going to take all that and make something completely original.
That's great. Is that going to be is that available for like a digital download after the campaign and stuff like that as well, or is that not on the table
Well,
yet?
it's for the short film, so it's a score for a short film, so it'd be a pretty brief album.
Well, I mean, it's more in the sense that, like, I don't know, when we've done different crowdfunds, whatever we have for a score, we kind of just throw that as when they download the film. We kind of throw up scores and stuff like that too. Not that you have to. I just didn't know if there's any idea, because even like if that's like, again, like I think the world of music right now isn't even like, you don't even need a full playlist. Artists release like one song at a time as it
Yeah.
is. So it's kind of like, oh, this is cool. I'll add it to my playlist. My
Who
I
genre
think
needs
it's a
an
great
album?
idea.
Yeah, no,
Yeah, it's just something that we hadn't talked about.
Hey, another stretch goal. If and that's actually another kind of strategy for that. It's like, hey, if we hit the next stretch goal, we're going to add a soundtrack, and everyone's going to get it, type thing. So it kind of incentivizes people. Well, this is all really cool. Let me think. I'm just kind of scanning to see if there's any questions that popped up in here, but I think I got Mitch writing a giallo in the comments. And I think everyone's just making fun of each other in the comments right now and saying, what's up? Let me think. I'm trying to think if I have any more questions for you guys as far as like off the top of my head. Oh yeah, the stunts. Can you talk a little bit more about what you want to do with the stunts? Because that's your next stretch goal. Tell us a little bit more about your stunt coordinator and what you got kind of planned for him, or what you can reveal, obviously.
Well, we're gonna bring in David LaValle. Zach, do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, David is known for the movies Free Guy, West Side Story, and the Daredevil TV series. So what we want to kind of accomplish here is like, there's some crazy stuff that, we can't talk about because it's spoilery, but we want to push for like the most realistic looking stunts and violence in the movie that we can possibly get away with. And having someone like David on board would not only allow us to, make that look really good, but, it'll also ensure that, our cast is protected and they remain safe throughout this whole process as well. So that's something that, we're really pushing for, because there's several moments that, could be improved greatly just from having his presence on set. So he's definitely one that we want to get in there.
Yeah,
you go ahead.
He's like, I mean, we're definitely going to be keeping the cast safe no matter what. But with
if he's not here, they're all going to die. We need that 50K.
But there is a choreography to all of this that we like, as far as like a stunt coordinator, like I consider those people to be choreographers, and Zack and I can stage things and figure things out and whatnot, and we're prepared to do that. But it would also be really great to have somebody whose actual entire focus and purpose in the industry is coordinating stunts and choreographing them. So that would be an absolute catch to be able to get funded to be able to get him.
Yeah, and just adding adding a stunt coordinator also allows you to kind of see the things that you don't even know about yet, because they're going to take your design sequence and be like, there's an opportunity to do X, Y, and Z, and we can fit it in, work with the director of photography to understand how to best sell the hits and make them look impactful without putting anybody at risk. I mean, stunt coordinators are essential to making things, like when you watch short films, you can tell sort of when people are trying to do the kind of power through it themselves versus like, wow, this feels like choreographed. This feels punchy. This feels right. No, that's really cool. I mean, and you guys still have 12 days to get that last 10 grand. I really think you have a really great chance of hitting that, especially going in, this is sort of lull week. I think, this is probably the one that's probably the most frustrating, where you're like, where is everybody? Where did they go? But that final week is really going to be, I think, a big stretch for you guys.
Well, thank God we got the initial funding within the first 2 weeks, because I think that lull week we'd be really tearing out our hair right now if we were still waiting to hit that milestone. And so the $50,000 goal also would not only go for the stunt coordinator, but it would also assist us in paying for the festival submission fees.
Nice.
And cover some travel expenses and whatnot, because Zach and I are going to want to attend all of these, and as well as other members of our team. So like the less that we have to like go broke in order to network and meet people and do the thing. There's no use in having a film in a film festival if you're not there. There's really no point.
Actually, I just had the question, then it escaped me, but I was going to ask, where are you shooting it? You shooting it in Canada?
We're shooting it in New England. We're shooting it. We're looking at places in Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts.
Okay. So you're coming to the DP that makes a lot of sense too. I actually just drove to Montreal a couple weeks ago for Fantasia. Because the last giallo film I worked on was playing that bath bomb. So I was there with Colin Cooper. So I did the trip to Montreal. So that was 6 hours. But that's great. If you guys are in Connecticut, that's cool. That's only a couple hours away from me. Maybe I'll stop by set and say hello. I'd love to see. What you guys are doing.
Oh, come on down.
Yeah.
It's a great guy. You have the best time. They're great people.
Oh yeah. What side of Connecticut? West or east or central?
It's where Rhode Island and
I'm right there.
Yeah.
Down by like not Bridgeport, because that's the other side, but Mystic.
There's a really great movie theater in Mystic with a fabulous screen, the Mystic movie theater, where we actually have our when we finished our last two films, we had like a private screening where we invited a bunch of people. Our producer, Randy Baruso, like he brought together like other people in their short films to give them a platform to screen their films as well, like leading up to the big premiere, like the big private premiere of ours. So it's like the first opportunity that I've seen both of my films on a big screen has been at Mystic Cinemas in Mystic, Connecticut.
Oh, that's really, really rad. That's cool. Yeah. I think something good to talk about right now would be a little bit more about the Kickstarter. Why don't you talk about some of the perks that you have available, and what are your favorite perks, and what do you think people should really kind of latch onto?
Oh, take it away, Zach.
Oh yeah, for sure. Well, I have all of them here. The first
model,
tier, the first tier, the $25 one that includes digital access to the movie and special features that will come to that. So the best way I like to describe this is that it is like pre-ordering the movie. So like we said, it's going to be in film festivals, so that's going to be the first place where you kind of get to see it. So we will be, as the film festivals information comes in, we'll be posting that for people to, see the locations and the schedules. But for the actual digital access, that'll be the only other way that this short film will be seen. So that's going to be available. It's going to have, we're going to do commentaries on it. There's going to be cast and crew interviews, behind the scenes footage, like all that fun stuff. Cool. So that is the first tier. One above that, we will, everything includes the digital access. But the next tier will include the poster, which you have on your thumbnail, but here's a better look at it. So this was actually illustrated by Matthew Terrian. Who, if you're not familiar, like you've probably seen his work before. It's
he did this.
He's known, like he does a lot of those portraits of like Jason or Michael or Freddy or like all of those. And there's some that he had a whole line where it was like half the face was, so like for instance Michael Myers and Laurie Strode. So you can check him out on Instagram. His handle is mt_illustration, but it was really fun to collaborate with him on the poster because, we obviously wanted to go for something like very retro and very like that harkens back to that era of like the 80s and just, have something that evokes the spirit of those movies. So, he had a good time just coming up with ideas, and then we sort of like fine-tuned it into that. We also have as an add-on, a red version of the poster.
Yes.
Oh, so nice.
This is
limited edition.
Oh, cool.
For anyone who likes the red. Up from that, we've got the t-shirts. So that'll come in the third tier for $100. You get the t-shirt, you get the poster, you get the digital access.
Nice.
Thank you, Eric. Then above that, $150 tier is the deluxe pack. So that will include everything that we already mentioned. It'll also include the script, which I've got right here. So for people
Nice.
who, are interested in filmmaking and kind of want to see the process of, seeing the movie, but like getting to see the script first and just seeing how it evolves, that's a really good way to do that. Because, movie scripts aren't really available to us to see. Like there's transcripts that exist online, but it's pretty hard to kind of find the original script or the shooting script of movies. So we'll have that available. We also have storyboard art that's also by Matthew. I'll try to focus it here.
Yeah, there it goes.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
Oh,
Yeah.
very nice. Yeah.
So just to give you an idea of like, what's the movie is going to be like, or certain scenes in it. And again, like really, really great sketches that he did.
Cool.
And then everything after that is more or less like non-material stuff. So you at the $250 tier, you'll actually get special thanks in the credits for Macabre. And then above that are all the producer tiers. So we've got the associate producer tier at $1,000, and you're credited as an associate producer, but also on IMDb. So for anyone wanting to get that that IMDb credit, which I've never had before, so I'm excited about that. Co-producer is going to also get credited, but they will get early digital access to the movie. So once we are finished post-production, they will have literally the first chance to see it before anyone else. And then our executive producer tier, so that one was $2,500, and then at $5,000, and these are limited spots. We've already got 2 filled, so there's 6 more. But the executive producers will get to actually join us in production meetings via Zoom.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So for people who do have like an interest in filmmaking, and that might be something that you're looking at down the line. I know that the 2 that we have, are very interested and they want to make their own movies one day. It's a great place to kind of start and just get in there and just see how the whole process works.
Yeah, no, that's definitely. We've had a couple of those for the Never Hike movies. Producers who've signed on and been like a backbone at some point. You know what I mean? And they get to come to set and they get to experience it. Like we had a very good his name escapes my head because I tried to think of it, but Knightley Giamio, he was a backer on Never Hike in the Snow, and I actually got into I had a phone call with him and his dad, and he was like, well, can he be in the movie? And I was like, I don't really do that. Like I don't believe in sort of buying your role, but in the process of kind of building out Never Hike in the Snow, I came up with the idea to put a young Jason in there, and I was like, Knightley, I got you. Put on that bald cap. We got you. We're getting you in the movie. So we're actually able to put him in. And his dream was to get into film school and doing all that stuff. So as a teenager in high school, he was able to come out, play Jason, but also spend the day with us. And he was like, kid in a candy store, just seeing everybody. He was with Nora, getting the makeup on. So, I mean, it becomes like I would say that like I always pitch that stuff is like, even if like you're a producer, if you have someone in your life who loves film and wants to get involved with film, buying a producer credit, knowing that you can get the set, especially someone in New England or like the mid-Atlantic area who can get there for the weekend or for the day. It's a great inspiration for anyone in your life who's ever wanted that experience to kind of get there and sit in the chair, sit at Village, watch how things are done. It's an eye-opening experience for people. I think that's really, really great.
That's really wonderful what you did for this kid, because when I was 15, that was the first time I was commissioned to write a play. And so like my first time like being a professional playwright was when I was 15 years old, and I got the like full on experience of collaboration with a director and the process of the beginning of a script through the production and all of that. And so like, so I just like from a very young age, like, I don't know why I went to school. It was just such a waste of time.
I know, that's how I feel sometimes. It's like, I wish I just would have like out of high school, just went and moved to LA and became a PA. Because that's where I learned everything. I mean, I learned everything by watching the pros do it. And I feel like that, I mean, that's for me, that's the best way for me to learn. And I feel like a lot of people learn on set too. It's sort of, you can't, everything's theory until you get out there. And most of it is just playing with the camera and coming up with stuff. And it doesn't take long to really, you know, learn the basics really. But I think it's kind of, once you get the bug, it's tough to shake it. That's for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And you do learn through experience, and then you learn through your passion and through your drive and commitment to it. And these are passion and drive and commitment are things that can't really be taught. They're inherently born within people. And it is something that, you know, that has driven me. I'd never directed a film before my first film, and I didn't go to school for that. I went to school for writing. And but I, you know, grew up watching films. Films are my thing. And and so, like, you know, I learned how to make movies from watching Alfred Hitchcock and Dario Argento and Lucio Fulci and all on, you know, name them. And it's I just feel very fortunate to be here and to now be sharing this with Zack, because I can't wait to get him to set. I can't wait to get him here.
So Zack, correct me if I'm wrong, but this will be your directorial debut, because you guys are co-directing, right? Yeah,
co-writing, co-directing. So everything that you just described about, you know, going to set and learning it as we go along will be me essentially. But I am completely on the same page of what you said. Like, I'm a hands-on learner, and especially if it's something that I'm interested in, like film, it's really easy to absorb that. You know, if it's like something like taxes or something, like, I'm never going to learn that. I'm just going to hire an accountant. So I'm really fortunate that I'm in such good hands with people who have experience and, you know, tremendous amount of talent as well. So, you know, I'm not worried at all. I know it's going to be quite exciting.
What are you looking forward to most about like getting out there and being on set?
You know, like there's not one specific thing. It's just the entire process. But I think, you know, like from everything that has been described to me, it sounds like my favorite part is actually going to be the post-production. Because like as a YouTube creator, like I would say that making a video is very much the same as you know, a film in the sense that, you know, you have the pre-production, you have the planning of everything, then you have the production of it, which is like very quick of you just recording a video, and then the post-production is the longest process. But that's the process where you can kind of just like ease yourself into it and really get comfortable, and then start being very creative in the editing and all that. So, and that's when we're gonna do the scoring as well. So there's a lot to look forward to there.
The production part, like I can't wait to see him on set and in production, because it's such a whirlwind, and we have a setup so that we won't have to be running around doing anything other than directing the film. There will be, if we need something done, we can ask and our assistant director, and he will go and make it happen and talk to the people that need to make it happen. There's a whole system in place for that. And it's such a whirlwind. It's such beautiful, organized chaos. And it happens so fast. And when production is over, there's a deep sadness that everyone experiences, because we were all together in this chrysalis, just, you know, working towards this goal together. And it's going to be the last time that you're with these people all together in one place for a while. And so you have to savor every single moment of it.
Yeah, I always describe it as like, depending on how long the production is, it's either like, it's like going to high school or it's like going to summer camp, because it's just people you have this bonded experience with where you're never going to forget it. And you sort of take that with you to, like, if you work on more films together, you know, hell yeah. But if, like, there's a lot of instances where you work on somebody, you might not see them for like another 20 years. And then all of a sudden you see them on another show and you pick right back up. There's like this really camaraderie about going through the process, because filmmaking is hard. Even when you're prepared, it's like, there's a lot of pressure. You want things to look a certain way. You want to hit those beats, and you obviously want to make a good product. So until you see it in camera and you know that it's locked in, there's always that like, okay, it's not there yet. And that's one thing I always loved about that process. I'm assuming a lot of the people who you work with in post now on your previous films are probably going to be taking up mantles for you there as well.
Yes. Yeah,
Nice.
our editor, and our colorist, our composer,
Great.
they're all like either in New England or New York, and
Great.
so it's and they're all people that I have worked with before, as I've said, and they're all absolutely wonderful. And I really love that I'm able to provide this team of people for Zack, so that like I guarantee a good time.
Yeah.
I can
Great.
guarantee a good time.
No, and that's great. I mean, and that's one of the things about building teams is like you want to keep coming back together as well. It's
Yeah.
like it's the same thing with the Womp Stomp crew. Like we've been, we started with about like 4 or 5 people and it grew to, front to back now. It sounds a very similar situation for you, which is great because people who are backing through a Kickstarter have that confidence of this is a team that has accomplished this before. It's not just, hey, we just decided yesterday that we want to be like filmmakers. We do this and you can be a part of, getting into the ground floor of it. Let's say, putting it out there before I jump, people are starting to drop some questions in, which are really great. So keep them coming. Before I get to that, let's talk a little bit about the feature and sort of, I mean, I don't want to have you guys give anything away, but what do you think, let's just play Dreammaker now. Like, what do you think is sort of how big of a budget feature do you think this is? Where do you see it fall as far as, some of the contemporary stuff that's coming out right now, and how does it fit in there?
I think we both have answers to this question.
Yeah,
Because
you
Zack
go
and I
first.
have very, very strong determination and to bring this film all the way in a serious commercial way. And so I think that like if we were able to like ideally get us to a place of like seriousness about like really throwing down in the best way possible, I think we could do it for $1 million.
Nice. How about you,
I
Zack?
think we have a very specific actor in mind to play the lead role. So I'd imagine that she would probably be a big chunk of that, but I don't know that much about budgets as compared to Erik, but I know that, because as far as we're concerned, we plan to have the same crew go from the short to the feature. And these are people who, especially Randy, our executive producer, who knows how to, manage a budget and take that dollar and push it as far as we can while still maintaining the utmost quality. But in terms of like what the movie is and where it kind of fits within the genre, whether that's like current or past, obviously, I talked about Scream earlier. This is very much like, as much as it is an homage to giallo, it is very much an homage to the slasher films of the late 90s and kind of like returning to that formula. Like, more contemporary slashers that are coming out today, they seem to more so be like those legacy sequels where it's just sort of, it's coming in and it's like there's like a new I Know What You Did Last Summer that's in the works, and I don't know what that's going to be, but it's like Halloween 2018 where there's a lot of like callback and stuff, and it's just it's not necessarily my thing, even though it's very popular. But this goes back to like us wanting to tap into the essence of what makes these movies great, rather than the surface details. So we're really wanting to go back to a specific vibe that made those movies special and what they were, while also kind of, I don't want to say that we're reinventing the wheel, but like we have a concept that, like we said, that Erik and I have not seen before, and that's very integral to the story, and we want to make sure that is what we're primarily focusing on when all is said and done. So it's interesting because like we're doing this short film, which is the opening scene of this movie, and it works as a standalone, but it was we had to make that decision. Do we want to make a short film where it's just like this condensed version of the feature? And I think just because we're so protective of the story and not letting it get out there, that we decided, well, let's we have enough faith in our abilities and the team that we're working with and their abilities that we can make something really special get attention on that, and then let these people who are interested, show them the script, see what they're going to be working with, and try to get them as passionate about it as we are.
Great. How long do you think the short is going to end up being runtime?
13
I'd
minutes.
say,
Oh, great.
13 minutes. Like if you look at Scream's opening scene, like the original, it's exactly 13 minutes, and our script for the opening is 13 pages. So if you do go by the rule of thumb of like a page a minute, which is not always true,
maybe like 14 with credits at the end.
Nice.
Like,
yeah.
No, that's right in the wheelhouse for like when you're in a block. It's always like, okay, 3-1. It's like I always go 3, 6, 12-ish, 13. Like if you're in that range, you're in a really good range. Like I think I don't know how, like if you guys have had to do the short block thing. I've had to sit in a lot of shorts blocks. When you see that one that's like the 25-minute short, and you're like, oh God, I hope it's good. But that's really cool. It seems like you can really, that's enough time to work with it, tell a story, and really kind of build it up. How many days do you think it's going to take? Well, I mean, I guess if you guys have 14, but what are you guys thinking? Like 2, 3, 4 days?
I'd like to go for 4. I would like to go for 4. I'd like to have a break somewhere in there, because what we did when we did the screens, which is 17 minutes, and it's a good 17 minutes. But what we did with that is we shot, it was a 3-day shoot, but we shot 2 days. We took a break. We came back on the 3rd day. Everyone had a chance to just take a breath. And then when we came back on the 3rd day, there was a lot of work to do on that last day. And we had like a 14-15 hour day that day, and we killed it because everyone was really energized and ready to go. And there was just a lot of good faith and a lot of positive energy and belief in the project on that set. And that's going to transfer over to this project as well. Because I do believe that Zack's love for what we're doing is infectious. I know that I can be rather infectious. And so together, I think it's going to be rather electrifying for everyone.
No, that's great. What was I gonna? Because I had a follow up to that, but that was good. No, I mean that sounds about right. When you get that break in there, it really sort of like helps people. That's what it was. Are you guys planning on doing a lot? Is this going to be a lot of overnights? Or you're going to be able to black out windows and kind of do some day work and not have to go the gauntlet, as I like to call it?
It depends on the location and what the location, like it really does, because we're like, because for the feature, I would really like we would both really like the luxury of building the art gallery so that it can be exactly the vision that we want, this brutalist architecture, this very much tenebrae, like, hard lines and a rigidity to it that's very sexy and very strange.
Nice.
So we're at the mercy of whatever space allows us to come in and rent it, as far as what their hours concerned, if they're a daytime business or what. But there might end up being some like night shoots. So there definitely will be night shoots, because some of it takes place outside in the dark in the night. So
yeah. No, it's always the war. It's like, how can we get this done during the day? Can we black out the windows? What can we do? Can we just shoot this way and not worry about it? But no, it's definitely a thing. I like that you meant. So you're going for like it's like brutalist production design sort of approach, or is that's like the kind of the hope?
That's
that's really cool. Oh, I love that.
Well, that was like, because that's what we want for the feature, just like that aesthetic of just like the more modernist, rather than like the traditional Gothic look that you see in horror movies. So we wanted to kind of like have that also be represented in the short film.
Yeah, there's a college down the street from where I grew up, UMass Dartmouth. I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but the whole place was designed by a brutalist architect, and it is so cool. I've always wanted to film there, and we have the local legend is that he worships Satan, so the layout of the buildings like builds a big pentagram or something. It's like, if you ever look up UMass Dartmouth, just look at the architecture and then look at the overhead map and like look at the conspiracy theories. It's really, really cool.
Looking at it right now. No,
that's exciting.
Yeah, it's a really. I had a long time ago, somebody commissioned me to do a pass on Stephen King's Strawberry Spring. And so I wanted to shoot it at UMass Dartmouth because it's nice. It's New England, and it's all about the fog and sort of that. And that area, I used to go to when I was a kid. I used to do I went to Drew Bledsoe football camp, which was there. And there's a lot of baseball camps over there because it was the local college. But I always remember just being actually scared by the buildings. They were just scary looking.
Yeah.
And so in the fog, in the snow, like it's like supposed to take place in early spring when you get a false spring. So the snow's on the ground, but it's getting warm. So it's all evaporating and the fog's in the air. And it's really sort of like everything's pink. And that's why they call it strawberry spring. But though that's really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to seeing the way this comes together.
Thank you for recommending that. I'm just looking at the images right now, and it's just like Erik, like we'll have to show this to Randy.
We'll have to
there's a lot of that stuff in southern New England. There's a lot of colleges like that, or there's a lot of buildings like that. So definitely keep an eye out for it if that's what you're going for.
I'm really excited for the conversation Zack and I are going to have after this live stream.
I actually got a good question here from Mitch, which is about the development process. I'll bring it up. As a practice, do you add material to a film treatment? As a practice, what material do you add to a film treatment? The character profiles, the extra details on the story twist. How far have you guys sort of delved into that as far as like the world building before you commit to stepping forward with it?
We have been trial and error.
Mm-hmm.
And because like we have a very strong there's an enormous amount of this the full length version written already, and we already know that there's a sequence that we need to go back and we need to rewrite. We were talking about the other day. We've been so focused on the short film and the Kickstarter campaign and getting all of that taken care of, that it was really nice to go back and revisit our world, our entire world that we've created. But there's a method in the madness of writing and then rewriting and writing and rewriting as we go. And that has proven to be the best thing, and just making discoveries and realizing what the entirety of the story is as we have been creating it.
Yeah. And I'd say that the way that, I'm fortunate to work with Erik on this, because both of our brains are wired to rewrite. Because I know most writers will tell you just write until the end and then go back and change it. And that's never been something that I've wanted to do, because it's, like you sometimes find the story in those details when you kind of go back and look at it. And you can write an entire script and then go back and just be like, okay, I'm going to write from here, but you'll completely miss something that might have been integral that would streamline that process. And Erik and I, like, what's great is that we can have a uniform vision at the end of the day, but we have very different opinions on things, and we'll like fight over like what is it that this scene is. And sometimes like I will be very like stubborn and be like, no, this is what that has to be, and Erik will also be that way. And we're able to kind of like go through that and just have like one or the other kind of understand what it is and then agree to it. So a lot of where we think that the story is going ends up not being that at all, because in these conversations, in these disagreements, we discover like option number 3, which is the thing that's going to make the story more interesting. And for us, like I think the most integral things with the story, like other than just like weird dialogue, is also that it always has to be interesting, and we don't like any filler. We don't like downtime in terms of like for me, like I don't like going to movies and just like sitting there and starting to like feel the time and just like start fidgeting. Like I like things to like constantly be moving. I like every scene to be a cause and effect of what came before it or what happens next. So like it's really about like keeping the pacing and the momentum going, and like having like new discoveries all along the way. Because I think like when I think of like my favorite horror movies and the most memorable ones, like they all do that.
Yeah. Do you how far do you guys outline forward, or do you just kind of jump right in, try to see what you come up with, and then work with the pieces that sort of show up on the page?
We did some outlining at the very beginning, and then I think that our outlining has just been kind of like mutually in our heads ever since we like really got into the weeds with it. And just like both understanding and knowing this is where we're going, this is where we're heading. And as we're rewriting what we've already written, that's like affecting what we're going to be writing later in our minds and our knowledge of the future. So that's why it's like we find it so important to really commit to, if we recognize something, going back and looking at it and realizing this isn't working, let's go back and fix it, because that is a cause that affects what later happens. And I think that ultimately, end of the day, it saves us instead of having like 337 drafts of the script, we will have like one really great draft that has been like seriously nursed and nurtured and taken care of as it's been written.
Oh yeah. That's always that I love. I mean, especially when you're doing a whodunit, and you have those things that you want to drop along the way to either sort of, lead the audience towards a red herring, or, if they were paying attention very closely, they would have picked up on these details and making those things go through. One process that I always loved when I worked back in animation, a lot of those films, the animated films that we see, hit the theaters, it's really, a lot of those films are built in the story department. So in the storyboarding department, animated films are always storyboarded all the way through first. And then once you're decided on what your story is, you're going to go. And what I loved about that department was it was a group of minds coming together all the time to they would get a page of the script, and it would be 6 brilliant story minds, basically 6 directors all kind of working on it at the same, like in different parts of it going together. But the thing that I used to love is we used to have something called the big board. So every scene or every sequence of like a collective of scenes would end up on a note card. We put it up on the big board, and you could literally trace your eyes through the entire movie as you're watching it. And all of a sudden an idea would come up. We'd throw that on a Post-it. We'd pin it next to that scene. And so when somebody was coming up to that scene, they would have all these Post-it notes of all the ideas that everybody had. To be like, oh, if anybody gets to this scene, it'd be a good idea. Maybe this, maybe try that. Oh, here's a gag we came up with. But it was that camaraderie of sitting around and like looking at the board and like kind of, okay, now in this scene, and we'll go here, and we're pitching through it, and just going through the pitch over and over and over again is always sort of like, that's the thing I like to do, is once it's written, it's just now taking laps through and constantly being like, oh, you know what? We added that thing to that scene. Okay, you know what? This is a great place where we can implement that idea and really kind of flesh it out. Do you guys use, because now you guys are in separate places, do you have or do you utilize any online like note-taking programs, or you're both like a Google Docs sheet, or do you guys kind of work out of something? How do you guys share that information or sort of keep it around?
Writer duet. We do everything through writer duet, and like
Fun.
it's and like once all of this is finished and settled down with the short film, the Kickstarter, then the short film and the production and everything and whatnot, I'm looking forward to us like coming back and being in the same place so that we can like do all of that and like really have the ability to. But writer duet has served us very, very well. Just the instant like being able to be on the same program, looking at exactly the same thing at the same time, writing together. It's a beautiful program. I thank God for that program.
Oh, that's great.
And there's a lot of things, like we'll have ideas and we'll be like, well, maybe that's not right for this scene, but we want to like get it in somewhere. And it's probably usually like a line of dialogue that will completely like pluck out and transplant somewhere else, because it's like we liked that line, or just like this is a conversation that needs to happen in a different scene, and it's like which character is saying this as well, because everything has to be done with intention, so we don't want to just like put something there because we like it. Like it's just like it needs to serve a purpose,
and we want to like it too.
Yeah. That's why I always like the note cards, because you could pluck the card off the board and put it off to the side and know that it was still alive. You could still look at it, you still see it, it doesn't slide into a folder somewhere. And then it's out of sight, out of mind type thing. It was always, like I said, I'm a visual guy, so it's always sort of that. Let me see. I'm trying to see if any other questions popped up while I was looking over here. Kickstarter. I think Joe's mentioning here. So it closes on September 5th.
The campaign, the official campaign ends on September 5th. Now, the one thing that we want to keep like driving home is that anybody who pledges to the campaign, your money is not taken out by Kickstarter until September 5th. So there is no reason to wait if you intend to make a pledge. In fact, it actually helps us to drive the numbers up, because the higher the numbers go, the more compelled people are by a successful campaign that is continuing to grow. So please don't find a I'm waiting for Friday, or I'm waiting for next week, or whatnot to be a hindrance, because September 5th is only when it will be taken from your account.
Yeah, that's true. And also sort of what was I going to say on top of that? That's a good reminder that the Kickstarter does take it towards the end, and you guys got a couple of weeks. Once you guys do hit your goal and you hit that date, you're staying open too for a post campaign to keep it there, to keep raising funds as well.
Yeah, it's given us that option, so we're going to do that. Yeah.
No, yeah, I always suggest that, like, just keep it open until like everything's done, because you never know. Like, you might show up and your art gallery burned to the ground last night. Everyone showed up, and you're like, "Oh no,
oh God!"
No, not that that's going to happen, but I'm just always prepared for the worst. Like Never Hike Alone. We had the state of emergency that shut down, an entire location for like 3 months. And so we were supposed to go up in April. We ended up going up in July, but it was like, thank God we had that open. We were able to keep going. And sort of kind of ran with it. So it's pretty cool. I got a super chat that just came in. I think it's sort of an off-topic question. We can all answer it, but it's from Marcy. I just saw Sinister and thought it was great, but the thing I hold against it is that I thought that the supernatural ruined the twist. Have you guys both seen Sinister?
Yeah,
I have. Yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sinister?
Well, it's interesting because I covered this on my podcast a long time ago, and something that I learned about it was that it was considered to be the scariest movie ever made.
Oh, that's right.
And I'm just like, really? And I mean,
by the metrics, it's like a metric system that they measured people watching it.
But it's like the scariest movie, like based on like jump scares, I guess. And yes, I mean, so I wouldn't say that it was the scariest, but it might be the most startling, because there's some very like abrupt, like the, I don't want to spoil it on here for anyone who hasn't seen it, but just like there's. That's true.
Isn't there like 3 of them now?
There's two. There's two at least. But my gripe with it, because I mean, like I like supernatural things. I think that would have been cool if there was like a twist that it would, like, they made it think that it was supernatural and it actually turned out to be like an actual like human element. But the thing that frustrated me with the movie all the time is that Ethan Hawke is like spends a lot of time just like kind of perusing around the house late at night. So there's like, those are scenes that I always feel like, okay, like something happened, but then like he would make so much noise. Like he fell through the attic at one point. And it's just like, is the family like not hearing this? Like nobody would wake up.
Does he drug them?
There was a sense of like realness that just like wasn't there. That was like, you watch a movie and there's just something that is so glaringly obvious that you would expect, and it's hard to not focus on that. And that's always like goes into the back of my mind, like, why is nobody paying it? Like, how did nobody hear that? And it kind of takes me out of the movie.
What the thing about Sinister that I've always taken away from Sinister are the home movies. The home movies are utterly terrifying, and absolutely the highlight of that film for me. The rest of it, I honestly like struggle to remember. And I've seen it more than once, but I mean, I know that Ethan Hawke wanders around the house, and the other characters are kind of like not like inconsequential. To like, I don't even know why they're there. But those home movies are the one that it begins with, and the ones that are discovered and real and screened throughout the film are unbelievably great. Like, what's up with that? Like, I want to be in that movie.
That's great. Yeah, I mean, I it's been so long since I've seen it. I remember the only thing I can really think of is I just remember being like, that was all right. I was like, that okay, cool. Like that, it was good enough to sort of like not piss me off, and it was, but it wasn't great enough where I'm like, oh my God, do you remember that part when this happened and that happened? I do remember like kind of the sequences with him playing the home movies and all the families kind of doing those things. And I just remember this thinking the whole time, I'm like, it's just so funny. It's another movie where the dad moves his family into the room where everybody killed themselves. And it's like, it's such a trope, but it's so funny when, it's nice to see it kind of, it's like the old Amityville horror, like twist on that, where it really, at the end of the day, but I think it's good enough. Let me see. Moy had a question. How far along are you guys in development? Is the pre-production already done, or you guys still have some work to do?
Pre-production just started, and we have a.
It didn't just start. We've been.
I know, but like the actual.
Like,
once we hit 40, we hit the ground running. Let me put it that way. And because we've already been talking to our actors, it's cast, and it's and the creative team is all lined up. We've already been had conversations with our cinematographer and whatnot. Like everyone has been prepped, but now that we are definitely able to do it, we have there's some magnificent important props that this film requires, and our first meeting with our prop master is on Sunday, and that's a meeting that I'm greatly looking forward to, because to find out what is possible with these things that we have in our mind to bring them to life.
When are you guys thinking about shooting?
The second week of November is what we're aiming for.
Oh, that's really good. That gives you a long time to sort of the campaign ends on in September. It gives you 2 months to really just sit down and nail it down and back it up. Yeah, that's plenty of time. Again, I think you guys have taken a really great approach to this as far as the way you planned it. I mean, you guys started talking about this back in March, which is really great. So it prepped you for being ready to launch this thing, earlier, I think this month or later last month. And now taking the same approach with the film, it always ends up with the best results right there. I got a couple, I think I saw another question fly past my thing. Mitch had a question, or more of a statement. Have you ever noticed that if you can take any still from Halloween and it will have a very Edward Hopper feel to it? It says a lot about Dean Cundy, if you ask me. I guess my answer to that would just be yes, Mitch, I have.
I don't know who, maybe this is bad. Who is Edward Hopper?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm lost with the Edward Hopper.
That's why I just said, sure. Mitch, if you can explain who Edward Hopper is in the thing, because I know you're a smart chap. Let me know. Let's get us for the reference. Okay, there it is. Here he is. Bam. For reference, Edward Hopper was the painter who did Nighthawks, the painting of the diner on the Urban Street corner.
Okay. Well, we all know that painting. And the whole world knows that painting. That's incredibly famous. Isn't that sad that we all know what that painting is, but we don't know this man's name?
No.
Let me see. What horror thriller director are you, who's still alive, do you think could do every horror genre, like psychological horror, slasher, haunt? So who's the most versatile horror filmmaker out today, do you think?
Ooh.
No,
that's a good one. That's
a tough question.
I'll start it off with the softball, which is probably James Wan, because he's invented two genres, or not invented, but he has sort of resprung two genres. Starting with the Saw franchise, coming back with the Conjuring, moving. I always say that in the wheel of horror, and this sort of what I've learned is that the horror kind of spins. There's zombies, there's ghosts, there's vampires, and the wheel kind of turns and something becomes hot. And I think that he does a great job of sort of following the wheel and coming up with something that does it. You can say, he's obviously a big budget filmmaker. He's doing all that big stuff now, but to come out of that and always he has a nice versatility. He's very versatile. But I would say that he would be one that I think it's kind of an easy answer. That's why I call it a softball. But is there anybody who you guys think that man, I love the way that they kind of jump around and do? Lee Winnell would be another one. Both those guys are just fantastic.
Well, horror.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the new Wolfman movie.
Yeah.
By Lee Winnell. Because I did really enjoy The Invisible Man, but I might agree with you. Dodge the question myself and just go with what you said, because that's true. James Wan has done a lot. I mean, he did a Fast and the Furious movie, but even within the horror genre, everything that he does is so versatile. Malignant, which I love, in spite of how ludicrous it is, was just you watch that and you're this is the same guy that did Saw and everything else and the Conjuring. So yeah, like he's definitely one that could have his foot in every genre.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Upgrade too by Lee. That's one of my favorites. I think that a nice, it's a nice mystery, but it's got like the futuristic twist to it. The camera work and it's really dynamic and cool. That's really cool. Erik, you got anybody on your list that you're a big fan of, or that you think has that versatile itch?
I'll say this. Horror is the most inclusive genre of all the genres that exist. It welcomes everything. It welcomes drama. It welcomes comedy. It welcomes science fiction. It welcomes everything. It is the most inclusive genre of all of them, and the horror adjacent movies as well. Like, I mean, there's just a truly something really special about horror. And I'm going to be honest with you that I don't follow any particular directors normally. I follow films, and the films that jump out at me are the ones that I latch onto and love. But like, it's very rare that I latch onto a film director. Dario Argento's the first half of Dario Argento's career. Before he ran out of money.
Did you see? I think it's Dark Glasses. I think his last one.
Yeah, I saw Dark Glasses. I thought that the first 40 minutes of Dark Glasses were pretty good, and then the rest of it was just snakes in a swamp or something.
Yeah,
I don't think that Zack cared for it very much.
I think but I think there's like a mentality within the genre as well. We're like probably back in that day of like, the 70s and the 80s, like film directors were kind of like rock stars in a sense that, you'd have these like, Lucio Fulci and Dario Argento and even like, like Wes Craven in the 80s. Cause like in the 90s when Wes Craven, got the job to do Scream, he wasn't a sure thing. Like, he was afraid that he was going to get fired. They weren't sure if they even wanted him to do it. So it was, he's kind of like, now what I would say is like the movie star, like, Tom Cruise is like, in a place of his own. There's not really actors like that. And I think that like, even going into the 90s and the 2000s, like film directors, there's some that are well known, but there's nobody that was kind of like it's like this person's name and their movie. It's sort of more like the movie that and James Wan, as much as like his career is like, like pretty substantial and people recognize him, it's not like no one's like James Wan's Conjuring or James Wan's Malignant. So it might just be a thing that's just like, it's like Erik said, it's like people don't really follow the directors anymore. They follow the movies.
Yeah, like John Carpenter did that. Yeah, it's like
well, I mean, the person who started doing that, and he's quite dead, but but is Alfred Hitchcock. Yeah. Everyone would go and see the new Alfred Hitchcock, and Alfred Hitchcock's name was over the title of the majority of his films. And so it was Alfred Hitchcock's this, Alfred Hitchcock's this, Alfred Hitchcock's this. And he was a star. He was a star director. So much so that like he was smart enough to on his television show to have like the intros and the outros and in between the commercial breaks to come into people's living rooms and go, "Good evening, I am Alfred," and say funny, morbid things to them and make them laugh. And so he was beloved by America, and probably of all directors, like of any genre, perhaps the most famous of all time.
Oh yeah, no, Hitchcock is like, he's the man. I love watching old Hitchcock stuff. Like sometimes when you get lost in the contemporary stuff and you're watching like the big budget things, and then all of a sudden you watch an old Hitchcock film and you realize how economical and smart it is. And some of the blocking and the camera movement, because they don't get like, I always like going back and watching old films because they don't have the same tech. Like, yeah, they might have a crane that could do certain things, and their moves are so limited, but everything in previous films looks so cinematic. And even with all the bells and whistles, movies with like incredible amounts of monies don't look cinematic. They look slick, they look cool, but they don't look like films. Like, I don't feel like I'm brought into the world of a film. And I always thought he did that very, very well. But today's world, when I see somebody's name in front of, I just think it's so tacky. I'm like, it's not just you. Like, like it might be your idea, but you need everybody around you. So to throw your name on front of the movie is sort of like it's a real douchey move in my opinion.
Oh well,
Like,
I'm a douchebag because I'm.
did you do that?
Oh yeah, I'm a film by Erik Champney.
Oh no, I filmed by that, but I think it's like when it's like so and so's.
Oh no.
That's
Something that's John Carpenter. That can
Yeah.
be John Carpenter. That can be Alfred Hitchcock. That can be like Dario Argento never really did that, but like that's absolutely like fine. But no, I think that that's you have to like really earn that brand.
Yeah.
And nobody really does that anymore. Like that's what I mean. Or you'll mostly see in like trailers. It's just like from the
mind
the
of,
person who brought you this. Yeah. And actually, that one director who I wish that they would do more of their own original stuff. But Fede Alvarez, because I just saw the new Alien Romulus, and I feel like horror has been in a bit of a dry spell for the last 2 years. Seeing Alien Romulus like reawoken something. I'm just like, oh my gosh, like I've been starving for something like this for like a year and a half. So
it's so good.
Going from like Evil Dead 2013, Don't Breathe, and now this, like, as far as I'm concerned, he's 3 for 3, but it's a thing where it's just like you did Evil Dead, you're doing Alien. Like, I want to see more Don't Breathe. Like, I don't want to see another sequel to Don't Breathe because they did that, but I want to see more like original content coming from Fede Alvarez.
Oh yeah, I was a big fan of it too. I got to see it last week in IMAX. It was a complete ride. I think a lot of the hate that's coming online is like really forced. They're like, the gestation time of the xenomorph. How dare they? It's like, guys,
and the thing is,
I don't want to wait 20 minutes for the.
I don't really follow the Aliens franchise, the Alien franchise. Like, I mean, I adore the first one. The second one is a little bit too action for me, and I liked Resurrection. I thought that was fun. But this is the first new Alien movie that I've seen. Like, Resurrection is the last the last Alien movie that I saw before Romulus, and what I appreciated about it was I was able to go into it rather completely ignorant and blind to everything that had been going on, and just strap in and have a fantastic time. It was a wonderful movie and a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
Good rule of thumb is that any
Adam
movie,
Wingard's another one.
Yeah, any movie with resurrection in the title is usually always not great for me.
Oh well, I mean,
Halloween and Alien.
I was young. I was pretty young. I mean, I had it was one of those things where it's like, I don't really know that this genre is not really my genre. I was entertained enough by it. Yeah. But I mean, Romulus is obviously a far superior film than Alien Resurrection. I can recognize
Vincent,
that.
I actually wanted to ask you, because you're obviously like the Friday the 13th buff. Which is your favorite movie of the franchise?
Jason Lives. It goes Jason Lives, the final chapter, and then part 2. I actually posted it on Twitter today, and people were surprised by like, part 2? Why would you pick part 2? And I'm like, why not? Part 2 is great. It has great cinematography. It's got some of the best jump scares, like when Ginny's reaching for the window and Jason comes through, and Jason sits up in the bed, there's somebody in the room. I think that the true formula for Friday the 13th was actually born in part 1 with the way Steve started to really put it together. The rest of the franchise is built off of that movie. As great as the original is for what it was, what people know Friday the 13th for, a lot of the formula started in 2, but when you got the mask in 3, that's when everybody kind of jumped on board, obviously. But I feel like Steve Miner took a step back with 3 because he was so worried about the 3D technology that a lot of it was like, it's a very well lit movie. There's no rain. He replaced rain with wind. There's just a ton of wind in the movie for some reason. The lake is sort of like
it's fun to watch in 3D.
It is. I want to see it. They've re-released it with like a better 3D system now, and you can see it. And I haven't seen it on the screen yet. I know Larry Zerner's posting about it all the time.
I've got they did a Blu-ray of it, an analog 3D. I love analog 3D. I've got really stylish analog 3D glasses. I have a whole 3D movie collection, and Friday the 13th Part 3D is a very different experience in 3D than it is flat.
It's like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
the whole
Or
movie.
the yo-yo. It's amusing. It's coming at you. I don't know.
Like, what can we throw at this thing? It's like so funny. Mitch kind of had a question. I think you guys already answered, but let's see if there's anything in the tank for the latter part of it. I'm going to just pare this down to as you guys are writing now and putting this first film together, are there any kernels that make you think that this is something that you'd want to keep going into multiple films? Or do you see it as sort of something that's like, as you're writing, you really want to lock it in and like, it's this film unless an idea comes up? How are you sort of approaching it?
I mean, I think speaking of John Carpenter, I always go back to like, the way that he said it is that, part of you as the creator is just like, it's done. Like, I want to make new things. I want to go on and do other things. But then there's the producer side that's just like, oh, I can get more money out of this. Then yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's just keep going. And I think that we, like Erik and I talked about this and we don't like, not that I hate it, but it's just like, it's become this like overused cliche at the end of horror movies where there's the setup, and it's just like that to me ruins the magic of like whether like the previous 89 minutes of just like having this one thing at the end, and that could like make or break it. And we're firm believers in movies that just end abruptly, like what's with yeah, like it just like just end in like the most like dramatic climactic moment.
I don't need to see the ambulance. I don't need the epilogue
or the nightmare like waking up. So I mean, there's like I understand, and the studio would be like, well, we want to set up a sequel, and I think that there's a way that it could be done where you don't have to put it in the movie. But I mean, if that's a thing, like when all is said and done, and Macabre is, a theatrically released feature-length movie, and people are like, I want more, and how that would even be possible and where it would go if someone approached us with, a truckload of money, I'm not going to say no.
Well, let me ask you a question. Has there ever been a giallo film that's had a sequel?
Inferno and Suspiria.
That's right. Okay. Yeah.
They're Mother of Tears.
Unofficially.
It's
not.
But there wasn't like a sense. Deep Red 2.
But there is a Suspiria 2, which was Deep Red in Japan.
Really?
They released it in Japan as Suspiria 2.
That's fun.
Yeah, well, Suspiria did so well in Japan that they were like, oh, we'll get this other movie that came out, the year before, the 2 years before.
I mean, I would say that like movies like Scream and like I Know What You Did Last Summer, Urban Legend, like in a way, those are giallo films. They're just more like updated for their time. So the fact that there is like Scream 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now 7, kind of speaks to that idea, because those are murder mysteries of just like it continuing on after the fact.
American slashers are like cheeseburger giallo. It's like it's a very simple meal. There's not a lot of flash to it. There's I think that the thing about giallo that I really love is the pageantry, and it's it's out there, it's artistic, it's people, it's not typical teens that are out doing horny teens out having sex, doing drugs, getting killed. It's like there are people with like fascinating backgrounds. The killers always have some fucked up backstory. It's not just I was bullied as a child. It's like some like really like deep shit that like someone's writing from a very dark place. And even the characters within it that you're following are in these like they're not normal characters. They're people with deep conflict. They're flawed characters. And it opens them up to sort of, get themselves into a world of trouble, which I think is really, really cool.
Well, that's something that I think that's because I don't think that, the giallo, I completely agree that the modern giallo with Scream and I Know What You Did Last Summer and et cetera and so forth, they are like giallo light because they don't come with the extreme complexity that classic giallo has. But that is something that Zack and I have been very committed to embracing, is that very intricate. And then that's one of the reasons why we have to go back and like rework things so that we understand how everything is going to unfurl because it is an extremely elaborate plot with a lot of pageantry, as you said, and with very complicated, complex characters with very complicated backstories, and that's why I'm so excited about this this Kickstarter and getting it funded and getting more funding in there so that we can really make this short film the best that it can possibly be, so that the attention that it gets really ignites like, you know, lights of a fuse and investors or producers or whatnot at these festivals to get it on the right path to the full-length feature.
Yeah. A question just came in from Marcy. We got a super chat. Can you say how to make a good slasher tips? And then they followed up with, or make a safe slasher. I'm going to say, I'm going to pare this question down because I don't think you should make a safe slasher. I don't think I think anytime you are making a film and you're going into like, what's a safe way to make a film? You already started, you have to kind of push boundaries. But for you, when you're approaching it, what do you think are the elements of a slasher or a giallo film that stand out where you're like, these are the formulas and tools that I like to use and I want to use that? What do you think is sort of the things that stand out to you?
I think chase scenes are something that are sorely missing in a lot of slasher movies nowadays.
Yeah.
And it's a thing where it's just like a chase scene should not just be it's not just a matter of like, okay, now here's the actor and they're gonna run and like it's gonna last however many minutes. Like there's a formula to it and there's suspense to it, and you know, you know, like thinking back to like my favorite chase scenes and things like that, like there's so many good ones in the Halloween franchise, for instance. Like I think the two that come to mind the most is in Halloween 2 when Jamie Lee Curtis is running through the hospital and has to like go through that window as he's like approaching, and like she falls on the broken glass, and then there's the elevator. But then there's the one in 5 where Danielle Harris is in the laundry chute and
he's stabbing at it,
stabbing through it. Yeah, like it's just like there's stakes, there's tension. And that's, you know, I feel like that's what's missing. Like in the new Halloween, the 2018 one, there was like a wonderful, like there's this gorgeous like piece of music that comes on when the granddaughter sees the friend dead on the fence, and a chase scene starts, and I'm just like, oh, here we go.
Yeah,
and we're in it, and then it literally lasts,
and then it's just
20 seconds.
Such an opportunity, just completely lost.
That's one of my biggest gripes with that film.
Yeah, and Kills with Lindsay in like that park, because like there's
she like hides in the bush.
It starts, and then it just ends, and it's just like this was the first time in like the 45 minutes so far that I was engaged in this movie, and now it like you killed it right away.
It's really wild how like, Halloween killed it. It is wild though, because there in both those two films there were these magnificent opportunities for epic chase scenes, and one of them only just began, and then the other one we were like kind of like getting going with it with Kyle Richards, and like Zach said, it just stopped, and it really was extremely suspenseful. I was like very, very like into it, was going to happen. I was on the edge of my seat, and then it just cut to the next scene as she hides under a bridge. I'm like, why did you stop? There were too many people in that movie to begin with. There was too many like back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah, I really thought that like that was the chance for them to have a big chase sequence all the way back to Laurie's house, and so you have all that tension. And I think like, you know, one of the greatest sort of moments in that tension kind of playing off too, but in Halloween 1 when she's trying to get in the house and the door's locked. And he's just getting closer and closer and closer, and that sense of like they're gonna get caught, they're gonna get caught, and that like that suspense and that tension that rises in people to be like, oh my god, it's not gonna happen, or then a moment of relief and then releasing it with some type of scare or anything like that. I'm a big fan of, you know, not knowing where the killer is gonna strike, like the sequence in Friday the 13th Part 2 where you have I think it's Mark, and I can't remember who Laurie Marie Taylor plays. But her character sort of going off to get dressed, she puts on those gross brown undies, and then you're thinking, okay, which one is Jason going after? Which one is he actually stalking and going to do that? And then you get that release of Mark getting hit in the face with the machete, and then you get the beautiful shot of him rolling down the stairs. And I think like one of my favorite things about when working on a slasher sequence where you're going to get to a kill is the build up to it, the sort of the story you're telling up to the kill, not just, oh, slasher shows up and now he tears the victims apart, and it's like there's no tension, there's nothing there. It's just sort of watching. It's like almost being what's like the word, like a voyeur. It's like voyeurism versus being told a story. You're just sitting there watching, like sitting behind like the plate glass, the screen opens, and you're like, watch me murder her. And it's like, there's no fun. Like, I want to be invested in Texas Chainsaw, the whole chase scene at the end when she jumps through the window, running down the street.
The whole last half hour of that movie is a chase scene. She gets caught a couple times, but then she gets away and she keeps running and she's run. Sally,
and the sound of the chainsaw just going and go. It's relentless. And
Sally goes through it more than anyone else in any horror film ever. Sally goes through it. That poor thing.
And then after all that, they had that freaking movie they made a couple years ago where like that scene where they're in the same room together and she's like, you remember what you did? And he just gets up and leaves. That is like, I can't believe that. I was like, oh my God, they're doing the whole thing where they're bringing her back. They're going to give her a moment. And I was like, what is going on?
I absolutely skipped that.
It has some fun moments. They did like a whole floor sequence where the chainsaw was kind of like a shark fin, which was kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, they have some good. I like that. I think that was sort of like has like that Evil Dead vibe. It's like it sort of depends on the approach of how you're approaching your scenes and sort of what the tone of it is. But I always just like trying to hold back. It's like building that tension with the rubber band and letting it snap. And then once it snaps, letting it be glorious and big. That was like the whole concept behind doing Never Hike in the Snow, which was building up this sequence, not knowing if this kid's going to get away. And this is what I thought that Alien Romulus did the best, was that the thing I love most about Alien Romulus is that the last character, the final girl, literally gets within an inch of not making it. Like they get her so close, and the stakes keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse till they can pull it around and kind of turn off the end. Because there's one point I'm like, nobody's surviving. They're all dying. Like they're gonna have to like kill themselves. There's no way they get out of this, and they somehow find a way out of it, or building it up. And just when you think someone's gonna get out of it, they get caught. And and I think that is such a great moment for audiences to be like, oh, like it just kind of hits you in that way where like that's the enjoyment. And that's why we watch movies. We watch people to struggle and strive and either make it or not. But when they get there, that it's kind of the pageantry of it. You know what I mean? It's like, this is why we make movies. We wanted to be on set on the day that we get to do the big head exploding gag. And, to see it in person a lot is like really, really fun. And to see the blood flying everywhere. Cleaning it up sucks, but it's worth it for the strike. Do you guys, I don't know if you can give away too much, but are you guys going to have a lot of cleanup after this is done?
I think that, I think that it's safe to say that the film starts with like the film proper will too, when we are able to make the feature, but the short film, it starts and it's building tension and it's building tension and it's building tension until, the rubber band really is, to use your analogy, pulled back all the way, and then at the end of the film, that rubber band smacks like a motherfucker.
Nice. Well, that's great. I mean, and obviously, like with a short film, that's especially in a big block and doing all that stuff, you really got to like leave that audience with the image, and that's really cool. That's really cool to hear. I think we're about to wrap it up here. We've been going for a good hour and a half. This has been really great to have you guys.
Yeah.
Once again,
Likewise.
Before we go, can we just remind my backers and those who are here with us where they can find you on YouTube, where they can find the Kickstarter, and any other details you want to leave about Macabre?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you can follow us on our socials for Macabre. So it's all one word, Macabre, the movie. So MACABRE, the movie. And that's Instagram, Twitter, X, Facebook. The Kickstarter link is in all those, but if you do want to go to Kickstarter, you can search for Macabre. It's the image is our poster, which you can see if you're looking in the corner of the screen there.
Show the poster.
Yeah, well, I do have the poster here. Yeah, I can show that, which is also a reward that comes for backing the campaign. So, take a good look at it there. And yeah, you can check that out on Kickstarter. I believe, Vincent, you have the link in the video here. So head over there. You can read all about what the funding is going to, what our stretch goals are, all the cast and crew involved, as well as what our mission is with the movie, and what our inspirations are and all of that. And yeah, check out all the rewards that come with it as well.
Yeah, it's a very loved campaign. Like Zack and I spent 3 months putting it together, and everything that you need to know, that you could possibly need to know, is there. And so I urge everyone to go and check it out. Have a good time. It's a great time. The video that Zack made is chef's kiss. And if you feel compelled and inspired to make a pledge and be a part of our adventure, we would really appreciate the help.
Great. Well, thank you guys for coming out. It was good to have you this week. And once again, congratulations on all the hard work paying off. Hopefully we can help you push you towards your stretch goal tonight and for the next couple of weeks. If anything comes up, we'll make sure to be sharing it around. And viewers, I would urge you to do that too. Remember, it's not just about backing; it's about sharing. Word of mouth is the biggest ally for independent filmmakers. So if you like what you see here, even if you can't back, or if you're inspired by what they're doing, make sure you're sharing that link around. There might be somebody in your life who is like, yes, this is what I'm about, and that can really, really help. So make sure you guys are doing that. I will be back next week. We're going to have some more guests lined up coming up. I'm going to start announcing those pretty soon. And just a reminder, I will be at the Colorado Festival of Horror September 13th through the 15th for a Friday the 13th weekend. Tom Matthews and Tom McLaughlin are going to be there. James Sweet from Jason Rising is going to be there. We're going to watch Jason Lives, Jason Rising, the entire Never Hike Alone catalog. And I hear that there is one more guest maybe showing up for that. So if you're in the Denver area, definitely go and check that out. Never Hike Alone will be at Horror Hound Film Festival, Crypticon Minneapolis, and we're also working on a couple other, we contacted this week for a couple other streaming things. We'll announce those next week. I'll also have some updates on the Never Hike Alone 2 crowdfund. We may be closing in on being able to launch the Blu-rays and get them printed, so I'm very excited about that. And next week I'll also be checking in about Never Hike Alone, the Final Cut campaign, which will be launching on Friday the 13th in September. I'll be launching it from Denver. We're going to have a good time. We'll have more details about what will be on that disc. Zack and Erik, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And everybody else, you have a great weekend. And until next time, we will see you on the trails. Have a great weekend, everybody.
Thank you.